A barefoot woman walks across a glowing floor before collapsing, her hand reaching to touch a mirror as she falls into darkness. In the mirror's reflection, a woman with reddish-brown hair named Rinko sadly bids her old self goodbye. Her quiet moment is shattered as a man's reflection suddenly appears behind her in the mirror. Now in the arms of a dark-haired man, he informs her that from today on, she is Sayonji Mirei, the fiancée of Kokuryu Reiji. He pulls her close, and they share a deep, passionate kiss. Their bare feet stand close together on the floor, surrounded by fallen petals and a discarded wrap. The scene shifts to the imposing, brightly lit headquarters of a world-renowned conglomerate at night. Inside the Grand Kokuryu Hotel, a luxurious setting is established as the place where the story unfolds. A woman with her red hair and a ponytail is cleaning when a woman with wavy, light brown hair asks why she is still there. The light, brown-haired woman, flanked by her two friends, stares down at the cleaning woman with open contempt. The arrogant woman is introduced as Shiratori Erika, a member of the powerful Shiratori clan. Erika violently grabs the hair of the cleaning woman, identified as hotel staff Suzuki Rinko, disgustedly ordering her to disappear. Erika's friends chime in, telling Rinko to die for offending Kokuryu's fiancé, but Erika smugly corrects them, saying she's only soon to be. Leaning closer, Erika taunts Rinko, cruelly asking if she's jealous. Surrounded by thorny roses, Erika declares that someone as hideous as Rinko could never be loved, and forcefully shoves her away. Rinko is thrown hard onto the floor. Offering a twisted kindness, Erika says she'll make Rinko beautiful while wiping her face with a soiled rag. As her friends watch with amusement, Erika forces Rinko to the ground and uses her back to polish her shoe. A painful memory surfaces of a young Rinko being pelted with a rock by a boy calling her a freak as she begs him to stop. The boy celebrates his successful throw as other children laugh, cementing Rinko's belief that she has lived a miserable life. A glimmer of hope appears as the scene transitions on the words. But then, the story shifts to a different time, showing a couple lying together under the covers in a hotel bed. The man, identified as hotel manager Sato Yuki, gently asks Suzuki-san if this is her first time. Rinko closes her eyes, filled with the hopeful thought that someone could actually like her despite her appearance. Sato Yuki whispers in her ear, promising to make her feel good and take care of everything. He tenderly calls her cute, and she wonders if she could allow herself to fall for him. He embraces her lovingly amidst a bed of red roses and confesses his love for her. Unseen by the couple, a phone records their intimate moment from across the dark room. Returning to the present, a somber Rinko vacuums a long, empty hotel corridor. She pauses her work, a look of quiet sadness on her face as colleagues pass by without a glance. A man in a suit confronts Rinko, callously showing her a viral video of her night with Yuki and shaming her for being in public. She stares in horror at the screen as a flood of cruel online comments mock her appearance. Rinko feels crushed by the judgment of shadowy figures who mock her for daring to show her face at work. The disembodied voices continue their heartless mockery, questioning who could ever be with her. Overwhelmed by the public humiliation, Rinko collapses to her knees in despair. A woman with pink hair and a white coat appears at the top of a grand staircase, feigning concern and asking if she is okay. As she walks away, the pink-haired woman coldly reveals that she hopes Rinko enjoyed her gift. Rinko confronts her, only for the woman to smugly ask if her cruel gift turned out well. With dawning horror, Rinko recognizes her tormentor, who calmly confirms her identity. The pink-haired woman leans in and confesses everything the leaked video was all her doing. Speechless and broken, Rinko can only mumble an excuse before turning to flee. She runs across a crosswalk, a phantom trail of thorny red roses following in her wake. Tears of anguish stream down her face as she runs blindly. With a screech of tires, she runs directly into the path of a speeding truck. In her final moments, she cries, reflecting that her entire life has been nothing but pain. Her life flashes before her eyes in bubbles of memory, each one filled with bullying, loneliness, and torment. A woman with long, vibrant red hair sits up in a luxurious bed, an IV stand beside her. She looks toward an ornate mirror, but her reflection is only a blinding, featureless light. Drawn to the mirror, she reaches out and touches its surface, causing the light to fade and reveal her true reflection. She gasps in utter disbelief at the beautiful face staring back at her, asking, "This is me?" A well-dressed man with light brown hair stands with his arms crossed, smugly asking if she likes what she sees. The red-haired woman stares at her beautiful reflection in utter disbelief, while the dark-haired man behind her asks if she likes it. The dark-haired man, Kokuryu Reiji, stands confidently with his arms crossed against a grand doorway. As he approaches, the red-haired woman looks up in shocked recognition. She identifies the imposing man as Kokuryu Reiji, who is framed by dark blue roses. He looks down on her, chiding her for her rude tone toward the man who saved her life. The scene abruptly shifts to a regal man with long white hair, who apologizes for his tardiness. An older man with a mustache and a blonde woman graciously tell him not to worry. The white-haired man pauses, looking down at his hand with a contemplative silence. He gestures warmly, inviting the couple to follow him into the room. The white-haired man formally greets the older man and the blonde woman who have come to see him. The older man with a mustache and the blonde woman stand side by side, their expressions serious. The two visitors sit down across from the white-haired man in his opulent office. The man offers his condolences for the former duke's passing, but the older man dismisses it, telling him to apologize to his deceased father instead. Dressed in a simple white robe, she stands nervously before him. She bows her head and formally apologizes to Mr. Kokuryu, who is introduced as Kokuryu Reiji, president of Kokuryu Hotels. A grand introduction explains Reiji Kokuryu is the powerful heir to one of Japan's 3 great houses. The other 2 great houses, the Shiratori and Sekitoba families, are introduced, noting Reiji's ruthless and dark reputation. Above all stands Shiratori Erika, the noble heiress from one of the great families. The older man insists he has come with genuine sincerity, regardless of how he is perceived. He vows to faithfully fulfill his duties without ambition, as the white-haired man listens impassively. The blonde woman interjects, explaining her father's profound grief after the incident with the late Duke and pleading for forgiveness on his behalf. The white-haired man opens his eyes, his gaze cool and calculating as he considers their words. Unmoved, he coldly tells them to take their leave if their business is concluded. As they depart, the older man thinks that the new duke is far more troublesome than he anticipated, then quietly thanks his daughter Ariel for advising him to come. The white-haired man remains seated, silently contemplating the recent exchange. The woman wonders aloud if she truly died, and questions the new, unfamiliar face staring back from the mirror. Reiji confirms she was hit by a truck and moments from death when he intervened to save her. He bluntly describes the horrific state of her face when he found her, saying it was an unrecognizable mess. He calmly reaches into his suit jacket to pull something out. The blonde woman Ariel and her father offer a final apology for the intrusion before leaving. Through a window, Ariel watches the solitary figure of the white-haired man sitting in his study. Once inside their carriage, Ariel furiously complains about the Duke's arrogance. Her father sits beside her, clenching his fists in silent agreement and frustration. Ariel comforts her father, praising his performance and explaining that his meek attitude is a necessary strategy for their family's survival. It's revealed that in the original story, Ariel was a laughingstock whose engagement to the prince was annulled due to her troublesome family. Her father, looking weary, confirms he hasn't forgotten the difficult situation they are in. She recoils in horror, the reality sinking in that her face was completely ruined. Stepping closer, Reiji reveals that his conglomerate has a pharmaceutical division. He leans in, holding her chin, and explains they possess a special compound that made her transformation possible. Gently touching her lips, he clarifies that a secret compound and complete surgical reconstruction created her new beauty. However, he delivers a chilling warning. To maintain her new form, she needs regular applications of a special serum. Her expression hardens as she stares him down, demanding to know what he wants from her. He smirks, pleased by her direct approach. Ariel takes her father's hands, her expression resolute as she supports him. The scene shifts to a grand palace at night as a man shouts in shock. A brown-haired man in a royal uniform looks aghast, asking if he really just heard a request to break off the engagement. Ariel calmly informs him that since their engagement wasn't based on mutual affection, she wishes to end it and live as a normal person. The brown-haired man slams his fist on the table in frustration. He angrily questions her right to make such a decision just because her family is powerful. As Ariel looks distressed, her father steps in, trying to de-escalate the situation. He formally offers to provide the serum to maintain her beauty, but only if she agrees to his terms. A dark premonition shows her body decaying, as he warns that without the medicine, she'll become even more hideous than before. Trapped by chains, she cries out in despair, realizing she has no other choice. Taking a breath, she asks him to state his condition for receiving the serum. Surrounded by an aura of power and wealth, Reiji issues his command, "Become my woman." Her father reminds Prince Cybele that the engagement was purely political and promises to uphold his duties even if it's annulled. Prince Cybele smirks and flatly refuses the proposal, stating he is not inclined to agree. Ariel warns the prince that his stubbornness will force her to use harsher words. She lashes out, calling him an ordinary man who is completely reliant on his connections. Ignoring her father's plea to stop, Ariel challenges the prince, questioning why her happiness should be sacrificed for politics if he were truly capable. Her furious confrontation with the prince continues. The prince clarifies he isn't refusing out of love for her, but because he has no intention of breaking the engagement. In disbelief, she asks if he is serious, but he coldly questions if she thinks he's joking. Her hand clenches into a tight, trembling fist. He reveals the full extent of his demand. She will pose as his fiancé, Saionji Masuzu. She quietly contemplates the word fiancé, her mind racing. She confronts him, asking why he would choose her when he already has Shiratori Erika. He explains they must join forces to counter Carcass's influence, reminding her that the late Duke would never forgive her father's actions. Ariel internally agrees that the prince is right about Carcass, but she remains defiant, absolutely refusing to marry a man she does not love. Frustrated and dejected, a drunken Ariel calls for another round at a bustling tavern. A concerned tavern worker with long brown hair gently suggests she's had enough to drink and offers to take her home. Staring at the worker, Ariel has a stunning realization. This is Lottie, the novel's heroine, whose actions led to her family's tragic fate. Ariel remembers Lottie as the late Duke's niece, and realizes that her presence here means she hasn't met the story's main antagonist yet. Lottie waves a hand to get her attention, again asking if she should take the seemingly dazed lady home. Pressing further, she insists there must be a specific reason it has to be her, earning a smirk from Reiji. He reveals his true motive. He needs someone who won't betray him, and her dependence on the serum makes her the perfect candidate. He offers her a limited time chance to experience everything he possesses: wealth, fame, power, and her newfound beauty. She stands in a radiant glow, weighing the heavy implications of his offer. Startled, Ariel reverts to a childlike state and declines the offer, prompting a confused Lottie to back off. Ariel then reflects that her family's doom was Lottie's fault. A new hope forms in Ariel's mind. If she can change Lottie's fate, she might be able to rewrite her own family's destiny. Leaning close, Ariel takes Lottie's hand and cryptically whispers that she knows the secret of her birth. Lottie is visibly shocked by the stranger's words, as Ariel notes that enemies seem to appear everywhere. Lottie's expression hardens as she secretly draws a knife, deciding she must kill this woman if she truly knows her secret. A montage of gears turns, showing memories of a life filled with suffering, neglect, and pain. With her eyes closed, she comes to a quiet resolution, deciding she has no regrets left. Her eyes snap open, burning with a new and fierce determination. Reiji declares the matter settled, instructing her to act as his fiancée in public and keep their contract a secret. A thorny vine grows as she offers a small, knowing smile. With a calm all right, she accepts his terms, sealing their agreement as blue butterflies flutter between them. A painful memory surfaces, framed like a portrait, of Erika grinding her shoe into Rinko's head. She gazes at her reflection, seeing the ghost of her former, miserable self looking back. As the mirror shatters, she bids a final goodbye to pitiful Rinko and prepares for what's next. Reiji straightens his tie and announces that their engagement will be made public in 3 days. Lottie's eyes narrow with deadly intent. As Ariel tries to reassure her, Lottie silences her and presses the knife to her throat, demanding to know what she meant. Ariel coolly observes the blade, thinking to herself that Lottie's fierce temperament is clear proof of her Carcass family blood. Maintaining her composure, Ariel calmly suggests they put the weapon away and talk. Lottie considers the proposition, suspecting a trap to threaten her cousin but deciding she can always kill Ariel after hearing her out. Lottie brings 2 drinks to a table, sitting down with Ariel to finally have their talk. A title card introduces the story: Marriage Contract with the Ruthless CEO. 3 days later, the scene shifts to a grand hall for an engagement press conference. A sharp-looking man with dark hair makes a grand entrance, stepping out of his car. As onlookers watch, he takes the hand of a woman wearing a large diamond ring. In a different setting, a blonde woman asks a maid if she is a noble's daughter and the cousin of Duke Carcass. The maid with reddish-brown hair listens silently, her expression unreadable. Startled that the maid already knew, the blonde woman suddenly grabs her arm in alarm. The blonde woman reveals a key, thinking that if the maid returns to the Duke's mansion, a future tragedy can be avoided. The maid leans forward, placing a document on the table in front of the surprised blonde woman. Recognizing the document as the will from the manga, the blonde woman realizes the maid knows her true identity. The maid's demeanor changes as she grabs the blonde woman, aggressively demanding to know who sent her. The story flashes to a beautiful woman with long, red hair, surrounded by elegant red roses. Looking forward with determination, she announces that in this life, she has been reborn, a flurry of camera flashes erupts from a group of photographers. The red-haired woman is revealed to be the fiancée of Kokuryu Reiji as they walk arm in arm. She steels herself to see her new role through, while the blonde woman from before introduces herself as a friend of Guru's. The maid asks if the blonde woman has been to the Duke's mansion, and she dares the maid to ask Duke Carcass for confirmation. Realizing the servants still remember her, the maid resolves to visit the mansion and be formally recognized as family. The blonde woman watches her leave, concluding that the maid is now determined to reclaim her identity. The scene transitions to the exterior of a magnificent and sun-drenched ducal mansion. Inside, the maid stands before the silver-haired Duke Carcass, who is seated in an ornate chair. At the same time, Reiji and his red-haired fiancé walk together toward a brightly lit doorway. The red-haired woman makes a silent vow to ensure her new life is a complete success. A man with purple-tinged hair smiles confidently as he announces his engagement. Elsewhere, Reiji's secretary, Onizuka Tsukasa, privately wonders why his boss chose a woman like her. The red-haired woman finds the secretary intense, but offers a polite greeting. Thump! Tsukasa drops massive stacks of documents on the desk, telling her she must learn everything about Sayonji Masuzu's persona. Back at the mansion, Duke Carcass gently takes the hand of the reddish-brown-haired woman. He sits and begins to carefully review the document she has brought him. A memory of a green beaded bracelet surfaces, causing the Duke to look up in surprise. He confirms that the unique jade bracelet once belonged to his uncle. A soft floral atmosphere envelops the Duke and the woman as they stand close together. Duke Carcass looks down at her with a gentle and understanding smile. Meanwhile, the red-haired woman studies a file, learning the details of Misuzu's personality and her first meeting with Reiji. She reviews the documents, realizing every detail of her fake identity has been thoroughly planned. Tsukasa clears his throat, asking if she is aware of Mr. Reiji's public image. She recalls magazine and newspaper headlines branding Reiji a cold-hearted man and a playboy heir, which Tsukasa confirms is accurate. Exactly, Tsukasa exclaims, his expression serious. He explains their mission is to reshape Reiji's image by creating the kind of perfect love story everyone dreams about. He then looks at her doubtfully, questioning if an amateur can truly handle such a critical role. Her face sets with determination as she vows that she will see it through, no matter what. The blonde woman, Lottie, watches from a distance as Duke Carcass embraces the woman who was once a maid. Lottie smiles, feeling she has succeeded in changing events and hoping it will alter her own family's fate. Now dressed as a proper lady, the woman is escorted by two men through a verdant estate. She turns to them, saying she must return to the tavern to pack her belongings alone. One of the men insists the Duke ordered him to protect her, so she reluctantly agrees to his company. Peeking from behind a pillar, Lottie anxiously wishes for the lady to pack quickly and hurry back to the mansion. A man watches the patrons of a tavern from a balcony above. Down below, a man with brown hair sits alone at a table, drinking somberly from a mug. Suddenly, a sharp voice yells, "Posture!" as the red-haired woman is corrected during her training. Reiji firmly tells a nervous Misuzu not to look down as they prepare to face the public. She recalls the harsh commands from her training: to smile, speak clearly, and never make him repeat himself. Now dressed in an elegant gown beside Reiji, she admits to herself that she's incredibly nervous. The scene shifts to a grand staircase, illuminated by a spotlight, awaiting their entrance. In a bustling tavern, a rowdy patron demands more booze, while a thoughtful brown-haired man sips his drink. As the patron complains about the tavern running out of alcohol, a woman in a green dress and two men ascend the stairs in the background. The woman in the green dress tells her companion to go upstairs, explaining she needs to bring some bottles to the Duke's mansion. She approaches the rowdy patrons, and the man with the mustache gives her a leering look. She offers a disarmingly charming smile to the drunken man. Startling the man, she firmly grabs his shoulders. Bam! She forcefully slams his face down onto the table. Back at the formal event, a brown-haired man greets Reiji, addressing him as President Kokuryu. The brown-haired man smiles warmly, surrounded by an aura of golden flowers. Seeing him, Misuzu's face fills with absolute shock and horror. Guests congratulate the newly engaged couple, with one voice from the crowd specifically wishing them happiness and another complimenting Miss Sayonji's beauty. Misuzu clings nervously to Reiji's arm, her thoughts identifying the familiar man as Satuyuki. In a flashback to the tavern brawl, the enraged patron curses the woman in green as he's thrown, cementing her thought that she hates this. As the patron's friend holds him back, the woman in green stands unfazed by the commotion. The thoughtful brown-haired man reflects that he disguised himself as a commoner to observe ordinary life, but never expected to witness such a scene. The enraged patrons surround the woman, their expressions menacing. Unintimidated, The woman coolly inspects a sharp knife she has drawn. The thoughtful brown-haired man steps between her and the thugs, taking her hand to protect her. Fragments of painful memories flash through Misuzu's mind, leering faces and shadowy figures as she feels disgusted and wants to run away. At the party, Reiji places a reassuring arm around Misuzu, startling her. Reiji says, "Let's go," leading Misuzu away as Satuyuki watches them with a pained expression. Misuzu and Reiji walk up the grand staircase together. Back at the tavern, the brown-haired man thinks that while he could handle the thugs alone, he doesn't mind being protected by her. One of the thugs recognizes the protector's pendant as a symbol of the royal family and urges his friend to flee before they get into serious trouble. The thugs quickly retreat, leaving the brown-haired man and the woman in green standing at the tavern's exit. In a nearby hallway, a distraught blonde woman despairs, realizing she failed to stop a meeting and that Sibel was at the tavern. The woman in green gazes at her protector, thinking to herself what a wonderful man he is. Her protector, Sibel, suddenly realizes the blonde woman, Ariel, has been following him the entire time. Reiji gently holds Misuzu's chin, reminding her to remember who she is now. Kiss. He tenderly kisses her on the forehead as she closes her eyes. A photographer captures the moment, exclaiming in surprise, "Flash." A crowd of photographers snaps pictures as the couple poses at the top of the stairs. A formal title card officially introduces Sayonji Misuzu as the fiancé of Kokuryu Reiji. Walking confidently beside Reiji, Misuzu feels she no longer has anything to fear. At the engagement press conference, Reiji thanks the reporters for coming and asks Misuzu to introduce herself. Misuzu offers a gentle smile to the audience, beginning her introduction. Surrounded by flowers and butterflies, she radiates confidence as she formally introduces herself as Sayonji Misuzu. Two reporters in the crowd look on with surprised expressions. With a graceful smile, Misuzu tells the press that a happy turn of fate brought them together. As Reiji watches approvingly, she declares that she will proudly call herself his fiancé from this day forward. The reporters listen intently as the couple stands together at the podium. Misuzu confidently displays her sparkling engagement ring for the cameras. The scene shifts to Shiratori Erika in bed, with two men who argue over whose turn it is. Holding her phone, Erika dismisses their argument, saying she'll take them both on at once. Her amusement vanishes as she watches the live breaking news of the engagement on a screen. Staring at her phone in disbelief, Erika erupts in rage, screaming and demanding to know the meaning of the press conference. A narrator explains that Japan is ruled by three noble houses, the Kokuryu and Sekitoba families, and reveals she is the daughter of the number 2 house. An angelic woman with long, light brown hair is introduced as a member of the 3rd house, the Shiratori family. Blessed with beauty and wealth, Shiratori Erika applies lipstick, surrounded by luxury items. Wearing a tiara, Erika looks down on a crowd of kneeling people, declaring that everyone bows before her. She recalls that even the country's most noble prince proposed to her and sealed it with a kiss. In a fit of rage, Erika throws her phone, shattering a screen broadcasting live breaking news. Staring at a single red rose on the ground, a distraught Erika wonders what on earth is going on. The scene shifts to a press conference where a reporter asks Miss Sayonji if she is aware of Mr. Kokuryu's past relationships. Thinking the question is ridiculous, Misuzu calmly states that she knew he had relationships with many attractive women. When a reporter asks if she feels superior to his past partners, Misuzu internally cedes before firmly answering no. Misuzu praises the women he chose as wonderful people, realizing the reporters are deliberately asking malicious questions to trap her. A goateed reporter then addresses her directly as Ms. Shiratori, preparing his next question. A sinister group of reporters smile menacingly, their faces partially obscured by shadows. The reporter continues his provocation, bringing up the matters of pedigree and appearance. He smugly asks if she believes that Ms. Shiratori is more suited for Reiji than she is. Unfazed by the provocation despite flashing back to traumatic memories, Misuzu coolly states that the only important thing is who Mr. Reiji chose. Misuzu confidently announces that she is Reiji's chosen fiancé and vows to make him happy. The goateed reporter is left utterly stunned and speechless by her powerful response. Other reporters in the crowd murmur in surprise and admiration. Flash! The press photographers erupt with camera flashes as Misuzu holds her ground. Back in a waiting room, Misuzu sighs in relief, but Reiji reminds her that she must always assume someone is watching. She reflects on her performance, feeling she perfectly played the role of Kokuryu Reiji's fiancé. She sits quietly, adjusting to the weight of her new position. She notes how heavy the opulent jewelry feels on her ears, finger, and neck. She thinks about how drastically different this life is from the one she used to live. On a news program, commentators discuss the sudden engagement, remarking that Reiji's partner must focus on making him happy. A commentator concludes that Misuzu seems to be the perfect match for him. A tiny, chibi version of Misuzu finds the praise embarrassing, while the real Reiji looks on. Surrounded by deep blue roses, Reiji smiles and compliments her, calling her performance flawless. Misuzu looks at him, startled and touched by his unexpected praise. The scene lingers for a moment on two beautiful red roses. Reiji states that if things keep going this smoothly, there won't be a problem, but a voice from the doorway interrupts them, shouting, "Please wait." Bam! The door bursts open as Shiratori Erika rushes into the room. Erika runs toward them, with a frantic and desperate expression on her face. Both Reiji and Misuzu are shocked by her sudden appearance, and Misuzu internally questions why Erika is there. The story shifts to a town square where a blonde noblewoman announces she is distributing gifts from Marquis Port. Using a megaphone, the blonde woman instructs the grateful villagers to line up to receive the supplies. She smiles, satisfied that the charity event is successfully boosting her father's reputation with the common people. In a nearby building, a silver-haired man asks his maid about Marquis Port's true intentions, but she admits she doesn't know. The scene briefly cuts back to Misuzu, who looks on with a worried expression. The silver-haired man remarks that it is surprising to see a noble's daughter so at ease in a slum. He tells his maid to return to her work, feeling that a much larger scheme is unfolding behind the scenes. The maid bows and leaves, telling him to be careful. Back in the square, a commotion erupts as a man yells for everyone to get out of his way. The maid tries to maintain order, telling people to line up properly and take only one bag each. A man with a ponytail ignores her, telling his companions to just grab the supplies. Kya! The men shove the maid to the ground as they surge forward. While the maid demands the bag back, the blonde woman intervenes, scolding the men for not lining up like everyone else. A man argues that they haven't eaten in 3 days, so the blonde noblewoman calmly offers them a little extra if they agree to line up. The man accepts her deal, asking her to promise she'll give his group extra supplies. The blonde noblewoman calmly tells the villagers not to rush, assuring them there are enough supplies for everyone. To appease the men, the blonde woman generously offers them 5 bags of supplies. The scene briefly shifts to Misuzu and Reiji being approached by a woman in a white suit, then returns to the maid complaining about the rude villagers. From a nearby window, the silver-haired man watches Ariel, doubting the thugs are satisfied and curious to see how she will handle the situation. As night falls on the town square, the maid tells her young lady that they are finally finished and can go home. The blonde noblewoman stretches and teases her maid, Laura, about being so eager to return home and relax. Suddenly hearing a noise, the blonde woman spins around, demanding to know who is there. The thugs emerge from an alleyway, and as the ponytail man announces his presence, a worried Laura asks if they need something else. Holding a knife, the ponytail man demands money from the noblewoman, noting she's rich enough to spare some. Panicking, Laura grabs her lady's arm and urges her to give the men what they want, but the noblewoman remains unfazed. The blonde woman glares at them, angrily questioning if the supplies she already provided weren't enough. Dreaming of years of comfort, the ponytail man brandishes his knife and aggressively demands she hand over her money. Surrounded, the noblewoman thinks that although she has a weapon, she can't risk a direct confrontation while Laura is with her. The blonde noblewoman offers a pouch of money, saying it's all she has, while in another scene, the woman in the white suit looks on in disbelief. Back in the alley, the thug smirks, seemingly satisfied. The thug takes the pouch but scoffs at the amount, sarcastically asking if she expects them to become homeless with so little. When his companion points out that they're already homeless, the leader angrily yells at him to shut up. The noblewoman calmly invites the men to her house for more money, surprising them with her unexpected generosity. The thug presses his knife to her throat, warning that he'll cut off her head if this is a trick. With a confident smile, she reassures her maid that the men only want money and won't hurt her, turning to ask the thugs for confirmation. The scene cuts abruptly to a stern-looking Reiji, his expression unreadable. Leading them to her mansion, she tells the men to wait as she fetches the money, privately thinking them dangerous but simple-minded. Losing patience, the thug leader grabs the terrified maid, demanding she get the money instead. Holding the noblewoman hostage, he threatens to kill her if they are exposed, prompting the maid to frantically promise she won't. The distraught maid agrees to their demands, promising to bring the money immediately. The noblewoman watches her captor, inwardly noting that he is surprisingly quick-witted for a thug. Still held at knife point, she reasons with her captors, stating that her large house proves she can pay them if they just let her go. A blonde man arrives on the scene, stopping in shock as he recognizes the hostage, Ariel. As Reiji asks a question in the other scene, an older blonde man rushes towards the hostage situation, screaming for the thugs to release his daughter. Ariel struggles against her captor, desperately trying to reassure her approaching father that she is fine. The thug tightens his hold, shouting a warning to her father, not to move any closer, or he'll kill her. Just then, the silver-haired man appears, calling the thugs fools as he unleashes a blast of power that incapacitates Ariel's captor. Misuzu reflects on seeing Erika again, remembering painful moments from the past, and wishing she never had to see her face again. Misuzu's hand tightens on her dress, her engagement ring a stark reminder of her new position. Composing herself, Misuzu formally addresses the newcomer as Miss Erika Shiratori, stating she has heard much about her. With a radiant smile, she confidently introduces herself as Misuzu Sayonji. Erika glares back, her expression filled with undisguised contempt. A tense silence hangs between them before Misuzu politely asks Erika the reason for her visit. Erika walks past Misuzu to confront Reiji, questioning the press conference and his father's knowledge, but he coolly replies he no longer needs permission. Erika smirks, deducing from his answer that he acted without his family's approval. Stepping closer, Erika declares an unapproved engagement is a farce and confidently states that she will be the one to marry him in the end. Misuzu watches Erika with a familiar look of disdain, remembering past humiliations. With a dismissive laugh, Misuzu tells them she'll be leaving for the day, suggesting they spend their alone time later. As Misuzu turns to leave, Erika calls out, warning her not to get too full of herself. Erika's inner voice vows that, in the end, Reiji will be hers. A close-up reveals the steely determination in Misuzu's eye. Erika continues her internal threat, thinking about what will happen to Misuzu once she wins. Thrown away like a dirty rag, Erika concludes, as Misuzu absorbs the venomous words, her expression hardening. Misuzu's eyes narrow with resolve as she vows that this time, in this life, she will not fail. Misuzu processes Erika's threat, thinking of her as an ex-fiancé, before correcting herself. The two women face off in a silent battle of wills, as Misuzu mentally labels Erika not an ex-fiancé, but merely a candidate. Bam! Erika storms out of the room, slamming the door behind her. Reiji notes that Misuzu didn't seem to hold back, as she vows to herself never to let that woman trample her again. Changing the subject, Reiji declares the press conference a success and states it's time to give Misuzu her reward. The story flashes back to a shirtless man kneeling before Erika, angrily recalling her promise to sleep with him if he tricked that ugly chick. The man continues his frantic complaint, remembering how disgusted he was by the act. Annoyed, Erika viciously kicks the man, shouting at him for being so noisy as he cries out in pain. Pinning him with her foot, Erika coldly reminds him of his place and warns him not to mistake her for the ugly girl he used. He is thrown against a bed, crying out in pain and begging her for forgiveness. Enraged at the memory of Misuzu smiling with Reiji, Erika viciously stomps on the man on the floor, who screams in agony. With a cruel smile, Erika vows to take everything that woman has. Ariel stares in disbelief at her rescuer, recognizing the silver-haired man as Carcass and wondering why he is there. In a show of overwhelming force, Carcass chokes the thug leader, who gasps for air and begs for his life. Turning calmly to the noblewoman, the silver-haired man asks if she is all right. Blushing, Ariel assures him she is fine, captivated by how handsome he is. Her father rushes to her side, frantically checking to see if his daughter Ariel is injured. Back in the present, Reiji repeats that the engagement press conference went well. He tells Misuzu it is time for her reward, as she recalls that the secret potion was the reason for her cooperation. Later, Misuzu emerges from the shower, dressed in a white bathrobe. She finds Reiji sitting on the bed, waiting for her in the dimly lit room. As they look at each other, she nervously wonders if his idea of a, quote, reward involves something intimate. He gratefully thanks the man, identified as Your Grace, for the rescue, but questions why he is out so late at night. Carcass coolly claims he was just passing by, which Ariel's father notes is quite a coincidence, while offering his thanks once more. Ariel's father formally addresses her as Miss Ariel, standing protectively by her side under the moonlight. With a slight smile, Carcass advises Ariel to be more careful, while inwardly dismissing her as sharp but otherwise unremarkable. Ariel offers to visit his residence to express her gratitude, but he waves her off, stating there's no need to trouble herself. The scene transitions, showing the moonlit trees and sky. Reiji sits surrounded by blue roses, holding a small vial as he extends a hand toward her. The narration explains that Misuzu Sayonji must regularly apply a secret potion to maintain her beauty. Without it, she fears she will revert back to her former hideous appearance. The thought of reverting to her old self fills her with dread. She realizes with horror that Reiji intends to apply the potion himself. Later, the captured and bound thug kneels before Ariel, apologizing for his actions. Ariel angrily confronts him for betraying her kindness, and he confesses that greed drove him to try and take her money. Heartbroken, she asks if her charity meant nothing more than money to him and if he was willing to hurt her to get it. Her father intervenes, telling Ariel not to stoop to their level and warning that one should not underestimate human greed. He comforts his distraught daughter, assuring her that she will come to understand these things in time. Finding her resolve, Ariel declares she must visit his grace tomorrow to give her thanks. Reiji tells her to relax, bluntly stating he has absolutely no interest in her body. Reluctantly, Misuzu agrees and asks him to take care of her. With quiet resolve, she turns her back to him and lets her towel fall. He uncorks the vial and begins to pour the golden liquid onto her bare back. He gently spreads the potion across her skin with his hands. Ariel's father grows suspicious, thinking the timely rescue was too convenient and deciding he must investigate. He reassures his daughter, saying he doubts they would intentionally trouble a young lady like her. The next day, the scene shifts to the magnificent exterior of Duke Carcass's mansion. Dressed in a new gown, Ariel arrives at the mansion, announcing her intention to thank the Duke. A prim and proper headmaid with brown hair stands silently before her. Ariel tries to charm the maid, calling her cool and beautiful while pleading to be let in to see her savior. As Ariel holds her hands, the maid internally judges her for being a marquis's daughter who doesn't act like a proper lady. Blushing, she lies on the bed and thinks she will never get used to the strange intimacy of the moment. As he works, she asks if the engagement was truly his own decision, to which he replies yes. However, he clarifies that his family doesn't know, warning her they are likely in an uproar and she should be prepared. Misuzu absorbs his words, looking concerned about the coming conflict. She grimly imagines what kind of monsters his biological parents must be, picturing a giant snake and a horned demon. The sudden realization of what she's gotten into leaves her momentarily stunned. Accepting defeat for now, Ariel politely asks the maid to pass on her regards, though she privately finds the refusal suspicious. She believes his sudden appearance was too strange and becomes determined to find another way inside. Seeking a new approach, Ariel enters a local tavern and orders a drink. She approaches a red-haired woman at the bar, Lottie, recognizing her as the Duke's cousin, who seems surprised to see her again. With a bright smile, Ariel explains that she is simply there for a drink. Ariel asks Lottie if she is close with the man she met the other day. The red-haired woman blushes, clearly flustered by the question. Reiji offers her an out, stating she is free to leave if she no longer needs the potion. Finding her resolve, Misuzu refuses, declaring she is ready to fight against anyone. A faint, satisfied smile touches Reiji's lips as he tells her he's counting on it. She flinches as he applies more pressure, complaining that it's a bit too much. Flustered, she tells him she can manage the rest herself. He simply says, "I see," as she sits up and covers herself with a towel. Lottie dismisses the question as silly, though Ariel insists she was just asking. Growing impatient, Ariel regrets asking for help from someone like her. Lottie asks if Ariel wants information about him but warns that he might not be trustworthy. Ariel proposes a deal, offering to help Lottie in exchange for her help, suggesting it would build trust. Leaning in close, Ariel whispers her request. She wants Lottie to get her into the Duke's mansion. Lottie furiously rejects the idea, accusing Ariel of trying to use her to get closer to her cousin. Pointing an accusatory finger, Lottie demands to know what Ariel is plotting. Feigning shyness, Ariel decides she has no choice but to confess her true feelings. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to an elegant art exhibition hall. Guests admire the floral artworks, with one woman praising the professor's mind-blowing exhibition and aspiring to create something as beautiful. A woman in a black kimono, identified as Reiji's mother, Kokuryu Michiko, gazes at a flower arrangement, musing that flowers are everything to her. With a dreamy expression, she admits that she has long admired his grace. She pleads her case, explaining that he never agrees to see her, and she desperately wants to meet him just once. Lottie weighs the story, torn between pitying Ariel if she's truthful and suspecting her motives if she's lying. Lottie agrees to the deal, but insists Ariel must wear a disguise, so her cousin won't recognize her. The scene transitions back to the Grand Ducal mansion. Inside, the silver-haired Duke spots Lottie and questions her about her companion. Lottie cheerfully announces her return and introduces the veiled Ariel as a friend visiting for the day. Carcass tells them to enjoy themselves, though he inwardly finds it strange that Ariel is wearing a veil in broad daylight. A group of men led by the governor approach Michiko to praise her wonderful exhibition. The governor then congratulates her on her son's engagement, catching her completely off guard. She internally questions the news, thinking she hasn't heard anything about an engagement. Maintaining her composure, Michiko smiles politely and promises to pass along his well wishes to her son. An assistant interrupts to inform Madame Kokuryu of an urgent call from Ms. Erika Shiratori. Michiko politely excuses herself from the group to take the call. A beautiful arrangement of roses and lilies fills the screen, marking a scene transition. He steps closer to the disguised woman and bluntly asks why she is wearing a veil. In a cute chibi-style moment, the direct question leaves Ariel flustered and speechless. As Carcass walks away, Lottie turns to Ariel and pointedly asks if she truly loves her cousin. A blonde woman in a yellow dress reassures a surprised, brown-haired woman that she is telling the truth. Walking through a lavish hall, the blonde woman reminds her companion that it's her turn to fulfill her promise, and the brunette agrees to speak privately. The blonde woman gives a self-satisfied smile, while the brown-haired woman looks on with slight irritation. The scene follows the blonde woman as she walks down the ornate hallway. Elsewhere, the silver-haired duke confirms to his headmaid that it was indeed her, and the maid asks if he noticed. In a private room, Michiko answers her phone, greeting Erika. Erika's voice greets her as mother-in-law before Michiko cuts in, asking about the urgent matter. As dark feathers begin to fall, Erika smirks and tells Michiko she wants to discuss Reiji's new fiancé. He explains that while he wasn't certain, he knew it was her, noting that she must have an objective to go through the trouble of using Lottie and a disguise to get in. He decides to see what she's up to. With a sly grin, the Duke decides to feign ignorance and play along with her little game. The scene shifts to a grand, illuminated mansion under a starry night sky. Inside, a blonde woman named Ariel sneaks through a dark room, determined to find a list her father mentioned. She holds up a glowing blue gem, deciding the time has come to use the item her father gave her. After searching a desk and finding nothing, she concludes the document wouldn't be kept in such an obvious place. She has a flash of inspiration, remembering her father keeps important documents in his study desk drawer. Holding the glowing gem, she enters the study and is surprised to see a figure sitting at the desk. Kaya. Ariel screams in shock, startled by the unexpected presence. The scene shifts to a study where Misuzu is reading about the Kokuryu family history as a bespectacled man brings her more work. He slams a stack of papers on the desk, telling her she must also memorize the entire family tree. He insists that as Reiji's fiancé, it's only natural for her to know the family's 300-year history, leaving Misuzu stressed. The man declares she gets no meals until she's memorized everything, prompting Misuzu to think he is sadistic. Reiji appears in the doorway, framed by blue roses and holding a sealed letter. A hand grabs Ariel's wrist, and she realizes with a jolt that it feels like a person's hand. She looks up to find a man with long silver hair staring at her and exclaims, "You!" The man calmly asks what she is doing, sitting in his study at such a late hour. From above, he questions why she would wear a disguise to infiltrate his mansion and search his study. He grabs her as she nervously claims she got lost, and he warns her he will not be merciful if she lies. His expression hardens as he states that, until now, no one has ever had the nerve to lie to his face. Realizing she's cornered, Ariel thinks it's best to tell him the truth. Entering the room, Reiji observes that his family has acted more quickly than he anticipated. He places a wax-sealed envelope on the desk, telling Misuzu it is for her. Surprised, Misuzu picks up the letter and begins to open it. You are cordially invited to a flower gathering, the true self. This gathering is dedicated to exploring the authentic essence of who we are, embracing our individual journeys, and sharing in the collective beauty of our true selves. Join us for an afternoon of introspection, connection, and growth as we delve into the depths of our being. We will engage in guided meditations, reflective exercises, and open discussions, all within a nurturing and supportive environment. Light refreshments will be served. We eagerly anticipate your presence as we blossom together in the spirit of truth and self-discovery. Date: Saturday, October 26th, 2024. Time: 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Location: The Serenity Garden, 123 Bloom Street, Evergreen City. RSVP by October 19th, 2024. To events at flowergathering.com. We look forward to sharing this transformative experience with you. When Misuzu asks what that is, Reiji explains it is a biannual flower arrangement event hosted by Madame Kokuryu, Misuzu is shocked. Realizing the significance of an invitation from Reiji's mother, he confronts her, revealing he saw her outside his gate the previous night and finds her sudden appearance suspicious. He surprises her by admitting he was following her, but clarifies it was for her own sake. She asks what he means, and he explains he saw her distributing supplies and worried the villagers might not be satisfied. Ariel understands he followed her because he predicted trouble, and he confirms her suspicion. A quiet, awkward moment passes between the two, depicted as chibi characters. He changes the subject, asking her why she suddenly began doing charity work. Ariel worries he won't believe the truth, concluding she needs to find a way out of the conversation. The invitation, signed by Kokuryu Michiko, expresses a hope to deepen their bond. A note reveals another guest will be Miss Sayonji Mirai, and warns that Madame Kokuryu is a formidable woman. Panicked, Misuzu exclaims that she was never informed about this. Reiji coldly replies that she knows now, and that she cannot refuse the invitation. He explains that Madame Kokuryu rules high society, and refusing her would make Misuzu an enemy and threaten her position as his fiancé. Citing propriety, she hastily announces she is taking her leave. He watches her flee with a knowing smile, thinking her attempts to hide her secrets only make him more interested. The scene transitions to the silver-haired man, reading peacefully in his study. A woman with reddish-brown hair enters, asking her cousin where her friend went, and he informs her that she went home. She questions if he made her friend leave, but he denies it, saying she left on her own accord. She insists her friend wouldn't leave willingly after finally meeting him, the person she so deeply admires. As he walks out, Reiji simply tells her to do her best. Misuzu complains that he's treating it as only her problem, but the bespectacled assistant informs her that Reiji will not be attending. He adjusts his glasses with a sigh, explaining that Reiji never goes near the Kokyu estate for any reason. Intrigued by this revelation, the man wonders if Ariel truly admires him. The reddish brown-haired woman panics, realizing she's let a secret slip, and tries to retract her statement. He tells her she's been deceived by Ariel, calling her admiration a lie and labeling her a thief. He explains he found Ariel sneaking in his study, which made things awkward and caused her to leave, leaving Lottie to ponder this betrayal. Lottie feels utterly deceived by Ariel as the scene shifts to a tavern. At the tavern, Ariel looks around, wondering if Lottie has arrived for their meeting. She spots a man named Sibel and questions his presence, and he asks her the same, unimpressed by her claim of coincidence. The assistant reveals that Reiji was separated from his parents, raised strictly as the heir, and never formed a true parent-child bond. Misuzu quietly absorbs this new information about Reiji's cold upbringing. The words parent and child trigger a glitched, painful memory of a young girl and an adult woman. The day arrives, and Misuzu stands ready in a stunning red kimono decorated with butterflies. She arrives at the enormous and impressive Kokuryu mansion, awed by its grandeur. Sibel curtly states he has no intention of discussing the end of their engagement. Lottie bursts in, pointing an accusing finger and shouting that Ariel is a huge liar. Lottie aggressively grabs Ariel, demanding to know what she was plotting, but Ariel insists it's all a misunderstanding. Ariel swears she didn't steal anything, and that the misunderstanding was cleared up, and Lottie cautiously asks if that's true. Sibel steps between them, calmly suggesting they sit down and talk things out like friends. Lottie turns to Sibel, confused by his use of the word friends when they barely know each other. Inside, Misuzu feels nervous as she observes the other guests mingling. She spots an imposing woman across the room and recognizes her as the matriarch. Misuzu formally greets Madame Kokuryu, thanking her for the invitation and introducing herself as Reiji's fiancé. Madame Kokuryu offers a cold and formal acknowledgement, welcoming Miss Sayonji. Misuzu bows her head, feeling the immense pressure from the older woman. While marveling at Madame Kokuryu's powerful presence, Misuzu overhears other women questioning if she can even arrange flowers. Sibel smiles coolly and announces that he and Ariel are engaged. Lottie freezes in shock, as Ariel realizes she forgot Lottie likes Sibel, making her look like a terrible flirt. In a panic, Ariel suddenly exclaims she remembered something urgent she has to do. As Ariel flees, Lottie shouts after her, once again calling her a huge liar. Lottie warns Sibel to be careful of his fiancé's lies, but he reassures her there are no romantic feelings between them, confusing Lottie further, with her scarred hands, making her look down in shame. Overhearing Madame Kokuryu mention Erika's invitation, Misuzu anxiously wonders if she will ever be accepted. Misuzu is stunned when Erika herself appears, cheerfully greeting Madame Kokuryu as mother-in-law. Erika stands serenely in a beautiful pink kimono, surrounded by a floral aura. Misuzu stares in disbelief, questioning why Erika is here, and why she called Madame Kokuryu mother-in-law. Madame Kokuryu smiles warmly, thanking Erika for coming. As the two women chat pleasantly about kimonos and family, Misuzu is left standing alone, completely ignored. Nearby guests snicker amongst themselves, noting that Misuzu is being snubbed and that it serves her right. The harsh reality sets in for Misuzu. No one here ever had any intention of welcoming her. Erika glances over her shoulder at Misuzu with a smug, victorious smile. Feathers fall as Erika approaches Misuzu, telling her not to look at her with such jealous eyes. She taunts Misuzu, saying that after her pathetic engagement announcement, no one in high society will ever accept her. Leaning in close, Erika delivers a final, cutting remark. Neither she nor mother-in-law will ever acknowledge Misuzu. A woman in a pink dress declares she is the only one worthy of being his fiancé, telling the red-haired woman she will never marry into the Kokuryu family. Laughing, the woman in pink grabs the red-haired woman's throat, explaining that marrying him means becoming part of the three great houses. In a clashing memory, the woman in pink smugly tells the red-haired woman there is no place for her, but she vows to make her regret her defiance. Lottie presses him, asking why they would even have an engagement if there are no feelings involved. Sibel remains silent, thinking to himself that since she's just a commoner, it shouldn't be a problem. Lottie realizes the engagement is purely political, deducing they have no feelings for each other, and that her cousin doesn't reciprocate Ariel's affection. Sibel asks Lottie if she's worried he'll break off his engagement, but she quickly deflects, asking about his relationship with Ariel before claiming it was just a casual question. Blushing, Lottie realizes there might still be a chance for her and resolves to confess her feelings now or regret it forever. In a flashback, Sibel sits alone, thinking he would regret not telling Lottie his feelings but deciding against a confession born of doubt. Back in the present, a flustered Lottie struggles to find the words for her confession. Overcome with embarrassment at the thought of confessing her love, Lottie decides she can't go through with it and must run away. Lottie abruptly stands and announces her departure, while a surprised Sibel calls out for her to wait. Covering her face in mortification, Lottie flees the tavern as Sibel rises from his chair to watch her go. Sibel looks on, thinking to himself how brave she is to be able to so clearly express her feelings. He continues to think about her, finding her flustered reaction incredibly adorable. This scene transitions to the Duke's elegant study at night. Lottie enters the study, asking her cousin, the silver-haired Duke Carcass, if he has a moment. As a brief memory of Lottie in a kimono flashes by, Duke Carcass looks up from his book and acknowledges her. Lottie approaches his desk with a question, wanting to know if Ariel has a lover. Duke Carcass questions her sudden interest, asking her what's wrong. Lottie explains that she saw Ariel with another man recently, which confused her since Ariel claimed to like the Duke. He calmly dismisses her concern, stating it can't be true since Ariel is already engaged, which prompts Lottie to ask with whom. Lottie notes the man had a noble air, fitting for a marquis's daughter, while the Duke seems unconcerned, believing they will all meet eventually anyway. Lottie seems to understand the situation now, thinking to herself, I thought so. As chibi versions of themselves float above the mansion, Lottie thanks her cousin for the information. Meanwhile, Sibel stands alone on a balcony, deep in thought. A collage of memories shows Lottie's determined face and Sibel being ignored, as he recalls how everyone overlooked him. He chastises himself for his thoughts, reminding himself that she is a commoner while he is royalty, destined for a political marriage. Gazing at the night sky, he muses that someone as passionate and brave as her is a rare find. The scene shifts to Ariel standing outside a busy soup kitchen she has apparently established. A person off-screen praises Lady Ariel for her incredible generosity in providing free food daily. Lottie arrives and is spotted by a chibi Ariel as she states that helping others is simply the right thing to do. Lottie and Ariel meet on a cobblestone street to talk. Ariel smiles warmly and invites Lottie inside to chat, asking what brings her here. Lottie pouts with annoyance, wondering if Ariel seriously thinks she has already stopped being angry with her. Before Ariel can finish her greeting, she is suddenly cut off. Ariel playfully pinches Lottie's cheeks, declaring that she seems remorseful enough to be forgiven. Standing on the street, Lottie tells Ariel that she came to ask her something specific. Lottie bluntly asks Ariel if she likes Prince Sibel, prompting a nervous denial from Ariel, who claims they aren't close. Lottie boldly confesses that she likes him and demands Ariel step aside, vowing to do whatever it takes to win him over. Ariel is left completely stunned by the sheer clarity and passion of Lottie's declaration. Ariel admits she has tried to break the engagement multiple times, but Sibel refuses. Hearing this, Lottie offers to make him agree, and the two women realize they share a common goal. Elsewhere, Duke Carcass and a maid are seen talking inside a brightly lit study. A brief scene shows a woman in a red kimono standing proudly among other women. The maid reports on Ariel's expanding charity work, mentioning the new dining hall, while the Duke expresses his suspicion that she couldn't have gotten the funds without her family's knowledge. As the Duke wonders what the Marquis family is planning, the maid admits that her observations have yielded no clues. A strange, cartoonish image appears of the maid threatening a swaddled baby with chopsticks, asking if it's ready to close its eyes. In a chibi flashback, Duke Carcass warns the maid that his reputation would be at risk if certain things became public knowledge. The Duke decides he needs to get inside Ariel's circle to learn her intentions, leaving the maid confused. He reveals his plan to join Ariel's charity work, deciding to prepare money and start participating tomorrow. The scene transitions to an exterior view of the dining hall building on a sunny day. Ariel looks up in shock, wondering why Duke Carcass is here. Believing this won't be easy, Duke Carcass arrives with a case, complimenting her wonderful effort and announcing his desire to join her activities. Ariel defensively insists she isn't seeking profit or investment, but he clarifies that he simply wants to participate. Duke Carcass gently takes her hand, telling Lady Ariel he wants to do charity work together with her. Misuzu steels herself, believing that if she isn't accepted here, she has no future. In the Crane Hall, the flower gathering begins with the theme, The True Self. Madame Kokuryu smiles and asks if all the ladies are ready with their flowers. As the other women agree, Misuzu reacts with sudden, wide-eyed confusion. She panics internally, realizing the invitation never mentioned bringing flowers and suspects it was a setup. A sinister smile crosses Madame Kokuryu's face, hinting at her cruel intentions. Erika politely addresses Madame Kokuryu as mother-in-law, proposing an idea. She suggests turning the event into a competition where everyone votes for the best arrangement. Madame Kokuryu praises Erika's fun idea and enthusiastically agrees to the competition. Misuzu despairs, wondering how she can possibly compete without any flowers. With a condescending smile, Madame Kokuryu turns to Misuzu and asks if something is wrong. The other guests stare, isolating Misuzu as she sits alone in the middle of the room. Misuzu shamefully apologizes for completely forgetting the flowers, as Madame Kokuryu feigns mild surprise. The other women chastise her, pointing out that the requirement was written in the invitation. Shadowy figures mock her, questioning her place as Reiji's fiancé and telling her to go home. Misuzu recalls her difficult flower arrangement lessons with the sadistic glasses guy. She remembers practicing diligently, determined to master the art. Finding her resolve, she declares her intent to win and asks permission to borrow flowers from the garden. Madame Kokuryu grants her request with a knowing, unreadable expression. She then adds a challenge. Misuzu has only 1 hour to find flowers and complete her arrangement. Stunned but accepting the terms, Misuzu quickly leaves the hall to head for the garden. She walks through the estate's vast and beautiful garden, beginning her search. Overwhelmed by choice, she debates whether to pick large, flashy flowers or simple, pure ones. She hurries down a path, the pressure clearly visible on her face. Her search leads her to a field of vibrant pink and white cosmos flowers. She kneels, observing that this secluded area seems to only grow wildflowers. She gently reaches out, her hand hovering just above the delicate cosmos petals. A memory surfaces as she recalls that the cosmos is also known as the autumn sakura. In a flashback, her grandmother, Kazuko Suzuki, tells a young Rinko that the cosmos is a strong flower that endures any weather. Her grandmother hopes Rinko will grow to be strong and graceful like the cosmos, which represents her true self. Back in the present, Misuzu concludes that the persona of Sayonji Mirai would never choose such a plain flower. With her decision made, she turns her back on the cosmos and walks away. She stops before a row of beautiful, blooming pink lilies, exclaiming that the lilies are more fitting for Mirai. She reaches for one as Madame Kokuryu's voice questions her choice. Misuzu turns in surprise to find Madame Kokuryu standing right behind her on the path. As Misuzu crouches by the flowers, Madame Kokuryu asks if she is unaware of the flower's meaning. Misuzu is visibly shocked to learn that pink lilies symbolize vanity and arrogance. Madame Kokuryu smirks, remarking how well the meaning fits her before walking away. Crushing a lily in her hand, Misuzu reflects that her Mirai persona is a facade of vanity. Defeated and filled with uncertainty, she wonders what she can possibly do now. Refusing to lose, she resolves to find another flower that truly represents her. She breaks into a desperate run, searching for a new option. Suddenly, she looks back in alarm as a crash sounds from behind her. Tripping on the stairs, She tumbles violently downwards. Erica appears in the shadows, a sinister smile on her face as dark feathers float around her. The scene shifts as a long-haired man in a formal suit asks a blonde woman if she will do charity work with him. She politely declines, thinking he's crazy. An unseen advisor urges the blonde woman, Lady Ariel, to accept the man's offer. The silver-haired man presents a case to Ariel, holding it out for her to take. Deciding it's unwise to oppose this powerful final boss, Ariel gracefully agrees to accept his support. Ariel accepts the case, secretly vowing to uncover his plot, while the man offers further assistance if needed. As the man stands behind her, Ariel thinks to herself that she won't be going easy on him either. Ariel leads the Duke away, questioning aloud whether it is appropriate for him to be doing such work. Arriving in a messy dining hall, Ariel explains they are short-staffed and asks him to help clear the tables. Back in the hall, the guests wonder where Misuzu went, while unattended garden shears lie ominously on a step. Erica returns to the room, and another woman asks her if everything is all right. Feigning concern, Erica reports that Misuzu was nowhere to be found in the garden and has likely run away. With a chilling, hidden smile, she privately thinks to herself, or perhaps not. Erica recalls Misuzu's terrified expression, admitting that the look sent a shiver down her spine. Erica savors the satisfaction of eliminating an eyesore, as other guests agree to leave the absent Misuzu alone. The silver-haired man confidently states that if she can do it, so can he, amused by her attempt to get rid of him. Ariel laughs, accepts his challenge, and playfully apologizes in advance to Lord Carcass for the trouble. Just as Lord Carcass begins to work, a group of well-dressed men barge in, demanding to see the owner. One of the men, confronting Ariel and Lord Carcass, angrily asks if she is the owner, accusing her of opening a new eatery to compete with them. The men demand she stop her nuisance, accusing her of harassment, as Ariel looks on in surprise, and Lord Carcass suggests they take the discussion inside. Now, in an office, Ariel sits behind a large desk with Lord Carcass standing beside her, asking the three-seated men what brought them to see her. As one woman notes that Madame Kokuryu invited Misuzu, Erica dismisses the thought, saying it's fine. An inner voice declares that if she cannot overcome this minor problem, she has no right to call herself the bride of the Kokuryu family. Misuzu returns to the hall in her red butterfly kimono, apologizing for keeping everyone waiting. The other women gasp in surprise as Misuzu confidently walks back into the room. Misuzu stops, her gaze meeting Erica's shocked expression from across the room. A man explains they are all restaurateurs whose businesses are suffering because her free dining hall has taken away all their customers. Ariel touches her chin thoughtfully, feigning ignorance, and asks if they've come to demand she close her establishment. The man clarifies that they only want her to charge for her services, not give them away, as Ariel apologizes for causing them unintentional harm. After she offers a stack of money as compensation, one of the men scoffs that it isn't nearly enough to cover their losses. Ariel calmly agrees the cash is insufficient and instructs them to receive the remaining amount from Lord Port by mentioning her name. She then turns to a surprised Lord Carcass, adding that mentioning Duke Carcass will also work. With a smile, Misuzu explains that she embarrassingly tripped over a pebble, but assures everyone not to worry. Erica is stunned, thinking to herself that she was certain she had already gotten rid of Misuzu. Showing the fresh scratches on her cheek, Misuzu apologizes for the concern and urges them to continue the event. In silent fury, Erica's hands clench the fabric of her pink kimono. Erica stares in disbelief and rage, unable to comprehend how or why Misuzu came back. Misuzu faces Erica, declaring that the real battle begins now as 30 minutes pass. 30 minutes later, another guest presents her arrangement of purple lisianthus flowers, which she says express her true self. Grinning, Ariel drapes her arm over Lord Carcass's shoulder and announces to the shocked men that the Duke is a major shareholder of her eatery. Lord Carcass internally questions her claim, knowing her family lacks such wealth, but Ariel quietly tells him it's all thanks to his family's financial power. Realizing they can open new shops with the money, the men decide to go to the Marquis immediately, as Ariel explains her father's charitable wishes. As the men praise the Marquis's benevolence, Lord Carcass silently observes, suspecting their real goal is to gain public support. Ariel and Lord Carcass watch the men leave, with Ariel waving a cheerful goodbye. Once they're alone, Lord Carcass asks if she truly intends to buy their shops, and Ariel calmly confirms that she does. Ariel clarifies that the family's wealth comes from her mother's businesses, as her father's meager salary barely covers household expenses. Erica proudly presents her own magnificent arrangement of vibrant pink peonies and white lilies. The other guests erupt in praise, calling Erica's work beautiful and just as expected from her. Misuzu looks downcast, admitting to herself that she cannot possibly outshine Erika's brilliance. An old saying is recalled, comparing a graceful woman to a peony when standing and a lily when walking. Erika elegantly states that she has worked hard to become as graceful as the woman in the saying. Lord Carcass wonders how long she can keep up her act before the scene changes to him meeting Prince Sibel, asking about his fiancé's recent actions. Prince Sibel asks if Lord Carcass is referring to his fiancé's family being devoted to charity work. Lord Carcass smiles, remarking how he never imagined Marquiport to be such a benevolent person. He probes further, asking the prince if he found the story strange, implying there's more to it. The prince dismisses his concern, calling her an impetuous woman whose actions often lack logic. Concluding they have different impressions of her, Lord Carcass changes the subject, saying he wants to discuss someone else. He approaches Prince Sibel, scroll in hand, stating that he simply wanted to ask him a question. Misuzu feels the immense pressure of having to present her arrangement immediately after Erika's triumph. The other women mock Misuzu from afar, whispering that she should have run away and will only embarrass herself. Erika feigns concern, telling the others not to tease Misuzu and to watch her work kindly, as Madame Kokuryu observes silently. With a heavy heart, Misuzu prepares to present her piece, the red butterflies on her kimono seeming to mock her. Lord Carcass shows a portrait of a brown-haired woman, explaining he saw her at the prince's mansion, and the prince identifies her as Lottie. When Lord Carcass asks why the prince is looking for her, the prince explains that he finds talking to her to be a lot of fun. The prince then asks Lord Carcass for an introduction, expressing his desire to be friends with Lottie, as Lord Carcass silently notes the prince is already engaged. Feigning ignorance, Lord Carcass claims not to know her, while the prince laments that she has seemingly vanished from the tavern where they met. As the prince holds the scroll, Lord Carcass realizes he's trying to have Lottie investigated, putting her in danger. Madame Kokuryu's eyes widen in surprise at the sight before her. Misuzu presents her flower arrangement, a single, humble pink cosmos in a simple vase. The guests burst into laughter, cruelly mocking her for picking what they call a common weed. Misuzu calmly agrees that it is a weed and that it is not beautiful or impressive. With unwavering resolve, Misuzu declares that despite its appearance, the flower represents who she truly is. When a guest scoffs at the filthy weed, Misuzu explains that cosmos are strong and can withstand any hardship. The other women fall silent, their expressions shifting as they listen to her words. A montage of memories shows Misuzu being mocked and ignored throughout her life. She recalls being pushed down, but asserts that she will never break, no matter the hardship. A split image shows her determined past self and her current graceful self, united by the same unyielding spirit. Misuzu smiles warmly at Madame Kokuryu, stating she looks forward to her continued guidance. A small, amused laugh escapes from Madame Kokuryu, who seems impressed by Misuzu's display. A woman seated nearby whispers that she actually finds Misuzu's bold sense of style quite appealing. Madame Kokuryu announces that this has been the most enjoyable gathering yet, and that it's time for the result. Erika glares at Misuzu, certain that no matter how strong she acts, she herself will be the clear winner. Misuzu stands serenely, having done all she could, ready to accept the outcome. The tension peaks as Erika and Misuzu face off, waiting for the highest voted piece to be announced. The scene shifts to a worried-looking Lottie sitting on her bed in a floral dress. Lord Carcass warns Lottie that someone is trying to capture her, and that she must stay inside the residence to remain safe. Lottie runs after him as he leaves, demanding to know who her pursuer is, and insisting their conversation isn't finished. A maid physically restrains a struggling Lottie, preventing her from following Lord Carcass. The maid informs Lady Lottie that she will be locking the door for her safety. The maid exits the room, leaving 2 guards posted outside the now locked doors. Lottie desperately pounds on the door, shouting that she has to go to the tavern and demanding to know who is trying to capture her. A promotional image for a different series is displayed. The story briefly flashes back to the flower arrangement event with an announcement to move on to the results. Back in the present, a maid watches Lord Carcass walk through a grand hall. The maid asks why he won't tell Lottie the truth, and he explains he can't let his cousin marry the engaged prince, whom she has feelings for. Lord Carcass instructs the maid to watch Lottie closely, and she asks if he will still visit Lady Ariel. He confirms he will, stating with conviction that he is certain Ariel is plotting something. Meanwhile, Ariel's father reviews their expenses, exclaiming in shock at the enormous amount of money she has spent. Ariel playfully approaches her father from behind, asking if he is having second thoughts about their plan. He clarifies that he doesn't regret their decision, but is saddened to see their family's hard-earned wealth disappear so quickly. Ariel reassures him that they cannot turn back, as ruining their house is the only way to break her engagement. She then warns her father that Duke Harkis has been watching her, indicating he has no intention of forgiving him. Surprised, her father learns that the Duke personally visited the dining hall Ariel runs. Ariel's father looks deeply concerned upon hearing that the Duke came himself. A maid interrupts them, announcing the arrival of a delivery from Lady Lottie. The maid presents a large, ornate box, noting that it was suspiciously delivered late at night by Duke Harkis's own maid. The maid presents the opened box to Ariel, revealing a simple, folded brown dress inside. Finding the late-night delivery odd, Ariel notices a drawing inside the skirt and, after a brief flashback to Misuzu and Erika, decides with her maid to investigate. Ariel and her maid unfold the large, reddish-brown garment, revealing a crudely drawn picture on its inner lining. Pointing to the drawing of a crying girl in a familiar dress near a mansion, Ariel deduces Lottie is locked up in the Duke's residence, impressing her maid. As the maid asks if Lottie is seeking help, Ariel's father firmly intervenes, forbidding Ariel from getting involved in the Duke's family matters. In a cute chibi style, Ariel sweetly reassures her father that she has no intention of getting involved, much to his relief. Ariel bids her father goodnight, to go rest, and he agrees, wishing her a good night as well. The scene shifts to the magnificent Duke's residence at night, flashing back to the tense announcement of the competition winner and a tender embrace. Out in the gardens, the maid questions Ariel's promise to her father, but Ariel reveals she only said it to reassure him, and cannot ignore Lottie's plea. Ariel instructs her maid to run in a specific direction when she fires an arrow, but the maid nervously questions what will happen if she fires an arrow. But the maid nervously questions what will happen if they get caught. Assuring her maid they won't be caught because someone is waiting for them, Ariel turns to embrace a mysterious cloaked figure. Now in a striking red and black dress, Ariel holds a small crossbow and tells her cloaked maid that it's time to begin their mission. After firing her crossbow as a distraction, Ariel shouts, "Run!" and her hooded maid sprints away from the estate gates. A man in a dark suit spots the fleeing figure and yells for the guards to catch that person. As a guard seizes her from behind, Ariel looks down a long, opulent hall where two men guard a door, her expression mirroring Misuzu's past determination. Two guards in the hallway hear the commotion outside, wondering what happened as they watch Ariel being escorted. The two guards stand sentinel before a heavily guarded door, wondering aloud what Lottie could have possibly done to deserve such intense security. Having slipped inside, Ariel stands poised with her crossbow, deciding to use a diversion tactic of her own. Crash! A loud noise startles one of the guards, who spins around asking what the sound was. One guard reminds the other they can't leave their post, but feels confident that Lady Nancy's presence will keep things secure. Crash! Another loud crash echoes through the hall, prompting the guards to yell, "Who's there?" as they rush to investigate the source of the noise. A guard apprehends Ariel, who has her hands raised in surrender, while a chibi panel cheekily counts her successful takedowns. 1 hit, 2 hits. Standing over a defeated guard, Ariel coolly notes the Duke's servants aren't very tough, while in a separate room, a sad Lottie waits alone. Rattle, rattle. Lottie hears a noise at her locked door and cautiously asks if someone is there, only for a familiar voice to reply, "It's me." Lottie's face lights up with joy and relief as she exclaims, "Ariel, you really came," and urges her to hurry before her cousin returns. The scene cuts back to the flower arrangement event, where two women enthusiastically congratulate Lady Erika on her victory. Erika feigns humility over her win, while the announcer diplomatically states that every single piece submitted was wonderful. The other women whisper amongst themselves, questioning the judge's praise for every piece and mocking how conceited Misuzu had been acting. The women continue their cruel gossip, calling Misuzu shameless as she sits with a crestfallen expression. With a condescending smirk, Erika turns to Misuzu and asks if she finally understands her place. Erika's face twists into a menacing grin as she declares herself unsurpassable and demands that Misuzu admit defeat and bow before her. A vote counter is surprised to find a single ballot for Sayonji Misuzu, which her companion dismisses as a pity vote from someone kind-hearted. Erika and the other women exchange curious glances, wondering who could have possibly cast a vote for Misuzu. Misuzu looks with surprise at Madame Kokuryu, who is now kneeling formally in front of her. A close-up reveals Madame Kokuryu's serene and resolute expression as she gazes forward. Facing the stunned onlookers, Madame Kokuryu calmly and confidently declares, "I did." Misuzu is utterly shocked, her eyes wide and welling with tears at the unexpected validation. Erika stares in disbelief, her triumphant expression completely gone. Madame Kokuryu challenges Erika, asking if she has a problem with the vote, leaving Erika stammering and demanding to know why. Winking playfully, Madame Kokuryu explains she simply voted for the piece she liked best and sees no reason for such a fuss. Turning her attention to a stunned Misuzu, Madame Kokuryu warmly praises her piece as truly lovely. Madame Kokuryu elaborates that while Misuzu's arrangement wasn't the most glamorous, that isn't what truly matters. A tear streams down Misuzu's face as she is overcome with emotion, managing a heartfelt, "Thank you." Madame Kokuryu gently takes Misuzu's hands, telling her to think of her as a mother from this day forward. Misuzu tearfully accepts the offer, addressing her as mother-in-law, and Madame Kokuryu smiles, saying they will get along well. Seething with disbelief and rage, Erika cannot comprehend how the situation turned against her so completely. In a desperate outburst, Erika grabs Madame Kokuryu's arm, demanding to know why she chose Misuzu. Madame Kokuryu, with Misuzu by her side, coldly tells Erika to refrain from calling her mother-in-law from now on. Erika is left utterly speechless and devastated by the public and final rejection. Concluding the gathering, Madame Kokuryu invites Misuzu to leave with her, walking away from a defeated and humiliated Erika. Madame Kokuryu smugly wishes Lady Shiratori a good day, leaving her to walk away in her pink kimono. Seething with rage, Lady Shiratori clenches her fist as black feathers fall around her, utterly defeated. In a private room, Madame Kokuryu instructs a surprised Misuzu to take off her kimono. Questioning if Misuzu plans to stay dressed up, Madame Kokuryu offers her a new set of clothes, much to Misuzu's hesitation. Misuzu expresses concern that her mother-in-law's hands will get dirty, but Madame Kokuryu coldly states that Misuzu is filthier and tells her to hold still. As Madame Kokuryu helps her dress, Misuzu thanks her, and Madame Kokuryu explains it was right not to tell her to prepare a flower in advance. Now in a new black kimono, Misuzu wonders if she was being tested from the start, as Madame Kokuryu praises the fit, calling her beautiful like a porcelain doll. Misuzu demurs, admitting she was a little surprised by the day's events. Madame Kokuryu knowingly asks if Misuzu thought she was a cruel woman, leaving Misuzu momentarily speechless. Madame Kokuryu explains her only goal was to see if Misuzu was fit to be the wife of the Kokuryu family, and that she has no time to be cruel to strangers. Misuzu looks at a framed photo of a young boy, recognizing him as a Kokuryu. Madame Kokuryu asks if Reiji has been doing well, sadly admitting he dislikes her so much that he no longer visits the house. Reflecting on what she's heard, Misuzu recalls that Mr. Kokuryu has no real mother-son bond with Lady Kokuryu. A flashback begins with Misuzu narrating that she was raised by her grandmother and a young Misuzu asking her grandmother if her mom will come for her tomorrow. A joyful young Misuzu finally sees her mother, exclaiming, "Mom!" and running to her, saying she missed her. The memory turns cruel as her mother declares that a child as ugly as her could never be her daughter. The young Misuzu stares in utter shock and heartbreak at her mother's rejection. Her mother turns and walks away, abandoning the devastated child in the street. Misuzu reflects on her own lonely past, wondering if the young boy in the photo, Reiji, was also lonely. Just as she ponders this, a servant announces that young Master Reiji is here to see them. The scene changes as a blonde woman bursts through a set of doors, desperately calling out for Lottie. Finding her, the blonde woman expresses her relief and asks who locked Lottie up. She angrily wonders what her cousin could have possibly been thinking. The blonde woman, Ariel, tells Lottie she's glad she's safe and suggests they hide for a few days, before Lottie tearfully thanks her for coming, and the two friends share a heartfelt embrace. Having escaped, Ariel and Lottie walk together down an empty, lamplit street at night. Misuzu and Madame Kokuryu turn to see who has arrived. A handsome man in a dark suit, Reiji, enters the room, and Misuzu recognizes him as Reiji-san. Madame Kokuryu stares with a grim, serious expression at the man who has just entered. The scene flashes back to a young boy digging in a garden at night. In a memory, the young boy sees a woman in a kimono with an umbrella, and he happily calls out, "Ah, mother." The boy's hopeful expression fades as he formally addresses her as Lady Kurotatsu. Ariel leads Lottie toward her shop for safety, assuring her that Duke Carcass won't find her there, but they are suddenly surrounded by a group of menacing men. As the three strangers approach, Ariel demands to know who they are, while Lottie nervously wonders if her cousin sent them, a possibility Ariel dismisses. One of the men unfurls a portrait of Lottie, confirming her identity and ordering the others to capture her. Lottie is seized and demands to know who they are as Ariel yells for her to run, but a hand clamps over Lottie's mouth, silencing her. Ariel demands the men let Lottie go, but one of them coldly warns her to walk away and pretend she saw nothing if she wants to avoid trouble. Holding an umbrella, Lady Kurotatsu approaches the boy, asking what he is planting. He replies that they are cosmos flowers, and she tells him to leave such things to the staff, as he has other things to learn. The boy sadly apologizes for his actions. The narration explains that the cosmos and the garden are one of the few memories Misuzu has with Reiji-san. Lady Kurotatsu explains she has always been strict with him for the sake of the one who will inherit the house. Drawing a knife in defiance, Ariel is suddenly struck from behind with a club before she can react. As Ariel lies unconscious on the cobblestones, the men drag a struggling Lottie away, deciding to just leave Ariel behind. The scene shifts to a lavish room where the brown-haired Prince Sibel is reading a book. Sibel looks up from his book as his men escort a captured Lottie into the room, announcing her arrival. A man shoves the gagged and blindfolded Lottie forward, informing the prince that they've brought the person he was looking for. She states that her mission has always been to raise the heir, and this was her way of showing love. She has no regrets. A memory shows the young boy crying out as she walks away from him. Further memories show her distant observation as he grows, drawing a line between them. As he grows into a young man and walks away, she can only watch from a distance. Her narration concludes, acknowledging the distance between herself and the Kurotatsu family. Prince Sibel stands in alarm, recognizing the captive and questioning if it's really Lottie. Enraged, he furiously demands to know who gave his men the authority to treat her so violently. He kneels beside Lottie and begins to untie her gag, wondering aloud what on earth his men were thinking. As he frees her, he asks with concern if she really had to go to such extreme lengths just to see him. He apologizes, explaining that he only asked his men to find her and never intended for them to be so rough. Sibel turns to his subordinates and angrily commands them to apologize to Lottie at once. The men immediately prostrate themselves on the floor, offering a terrified apology to Lady Lottie. Turning back to her, Sibel gently takes her arm and asks if she was harmed in any way. Back in the present, Madame Kokuryu looks with a troubled expression at the grown Reiji. Reiji greets Lady Kurotatsu, who notes it has been many years since he last set foot in the house. Reiji places a hand on a nervous Misuzu's shoulder. Lottie angrily slaps his hand away, demanding to know if he thinks his high status gives him the right to abduct people from the streets. He stares at his hand, then at her defiant face, seemingly surprised by her reaction. He calmly explains he searched for her so urgently because he needed to tell her something important. He feels the same way she does. Lottie looks completely bewildered by his confession, wondering what he could possibly be talking about. Confused, Lottie questions his feelings, reminding him that he's already engaged to Ariel and has no intention of breaking it off, while he listens with a confident smile. Sibel gently takes her hand, asking her to give him some time to resolve the engagement himself. Lottie sighs with closed eyes, clearly unconvinced by his promise. He announces that they will be taking their leave, turning to go with Misuzu. Madame Kokuryu surprisingly asks them to come show their faces again sometime, causing Misuzu to look back in shock. Reiji looks over his shoulder, a hint of a smile on his face as yellow roses bloom around them. She pulls her hand away, stating that she doesn't like his forceful methods, and demands he also apologize to Ariel for the harm his servants caused. Having made her point, Lottie turns and walks away, leaving a stunned Sibel behind. Ariel bursts into a grand room, calling for Duke Carcass and announcing that something terrible has happened, prompting him to ask what's wrong. Pushing aside his questions, Ariel urgently explains that Lottie was abducted by strange men the previous night, leaving the Duke shocked. Leaning against him weakly, Ariel explains she was knocked out during the struggle and only just woke up. She recounts that the men had Lottie's portrait to confirm her identity, and the Duke listens with a grim, serious expression. He softly agrees, and Madame Kokuryu watches them from the doorway. As they walk away, Madame Kokuryu watches them go, the cosmos flowers from the garden appearing in the foreground. Misuzu and Reiji walk down a long path, flanked on both sides by servants bowing deeply. With a serious expression, Reiji walks beside Misuzu, who looks thoughtful. He tells her to calm down and go inside to be looked after, then asks if she has any idea who the men were. Ariel cries out that she can't calm down, terrified by the intimidating men and what Lottie might be suffering through. Duke Carcass holds her close, softly reassuring her that Lottie will be all right. He then gently lifts the distraught Ariel into his arms. As they walk past the bowing servants, Reiji explains to a stunned Misuzu that the kimono she's wearing is a family heirloom, a gift from Lady Kurotatsu that signifies her formal recognition as a bride of the Kurotatsu family. Misuzu's eyes widen with profound emotion as the meaning of the gift sinks in. Now formally accepted as a bride of the Kurotatsu family, Misuzu walks beside Reiji under a shower of rose petals. Reiji turns back to look at her, a gentle and happy smile on his face amidst a field of cosmos flowers. Misuzu blushes, looking up at him with a soft, surprised expression. In a memory, a blue-haired man and a woman with reddish-brown hair in a dark kimono walk hand in hand toward a traditional building. The couple stands together outside the building under a clear blue sky. A sudden jolt of movement catches the blue-haired man by surprise as he turns toward the woman. He catches the falling woman, dipping her gracefully in a romantic embrace. The scene flashes to a close-up of a woman's determined purple eye. The blue-haired man's memory fades as he asks himself in anguish why this is happening. Carrying her down a long hall, he tells her that their first priority is to treat the wound on her head. He holds her securely as they continue through the ornate mansion. Tucked in his arms, Ariel can't help but admire how handsome Duke Carcass is from this angle, but he catches her staring and asks why she isn't getting down. The man with long white hair kneels before the blonde woman as she sits on a couch, insisting she's getting down. Standing beside the woman, the man with white hair thanks her, saying he'll be fine. The man instructs Nancy to tend to Lady Ariel's wounds, and the maid asks her to lie on her stomach. As Nancy treats a cut on the back of her head, Ariel lies on the couch and winces in pain. The maid warns that it will sting a little as the man with white hair watches intently. The man with white hair takes the medical supplies from a surprised Nancy, declaring that he will do it. He holds the medical kit as Nancy steps back, a silent understanding passing between them. As he treats her wound, he questions why she gets into trouble when she can't handle pain, causing her to internally protest his bluntness. Ariel explains she did it for her friend Lottie and clarifies that she means him no harm. He dabs the wound, making her yelp in pain, and he coolly tells her she brought it on herself. Despite this sting, his hand gently dabs the wound on her head. Ariel is surprised to find that his touch is gentle, despite his harsh words. She closes her eyes, beginning to think that perhaps he is a kind person after all. A chibi version of herself reminds her that her family's fate is at stake, snapping her back to the grim reality of her situation. Startled, Ariel quickly stands to leave, thanking him and saying she only came to tell him about Lottie. As she turns to go, she trips and falls forward, and the man with white hair quickly moves to catch her. A hand reaches out in a blur of motion. Ariel looks down in alarm as she stumbles and falls. She looks up, surprised to find herself caught safely in his arms. Finding herself on his lap, Ariel is flustered as he calmly asks if she's comfortable. She denies it, but before she can move, Lottie appears in the doorway, calling out for her cousin. A blushing Lottie stammers in shock at the compromising scene, while Ariel frantically tries to explain it's a misunderstanding. The man calmly gets up and asks Lottie how she escaped and if she's okay. Lottie stands with her arms crossed, asking her cousin if he knows who was behind her abduction. After a brief flashback to an intimate moment between a man and a woman, he simply confirms that he knows. A confused Ariel asks, "What's going on?" and who took Lottie. Lottie reveals it was Ariel's fiancé, leaving Ariel stunned as she questions if it was Prince Sibel. The man with white hair explains that Prince Sibel likes Lottie and was desperately searching for her. Realizing this is her chance, Ariel thinks happily that Sibel liking someone else is the perfect reason to break their engagement. The man reminds her of her engagement to Prince Sibel, which she reluctantly confirms. Lottie teases Ariel about her casual reaction, noting that any other woman would be upset to hear such news about her fiancé. The man with white hair silently observes, wondering why Ariel seems so happy about her fiancé's interest in another woman. Stating that her father must be worried, Ariel bids them a good day and prepares to leave. As Ariel walks away, Lottie waves while the man watches her go, lost in thought. Lottie playfully asks her cousin if he was moved by Ariel, but he curtly dismisses the notion. Teasingly, Lottie tells her cousin he can't hide his feelings from her, admitting she would have been moved too. Lottie suggests they would be a perfect match, but he cuts her off with a glare, threatening to send her back to Prince Sibel. Sighing, Lottie sits down, admitting she was disappointed by the prince's actions and doesn't want to hear his name. Ariel hums happily to herself as she walks through a grand hall. A man with dark hair spots someone and yells, "Hey!" Ariel arrives home to her worried father, who is relieved to see her after she was gone all night. In a cute, chibi moment, Ariel apologizes, and her father notes her happy expression, asking if something good happened. Ariel happily tells her father that she discovered Prince Sibel likes someone else, privately celebrating that her plan to end the engagement is working. A distressed woman with red hair closes her eyes in pain. A voice desperately calls out Mireille, "Stay with me," against a bright, cloudy sky. On a rooftop, a man in a dark suit holds the red-haired woman, who is dressed in a black kimono. The man gazes down at the unconscious woman in his arms as red roses frame the scene. He carries her gently, surrounded by a swirl of pink light and falling rose petals. The scene transitions with a close-up of thorny green vines. In a bedroom, a female doctor tells two men that she suspects the patient, Mireille, has been under extreme tension. The doctor tells the two men she suspects Mireille's condition was caused by Shiratori Erika. Watching over the unconscious Mireille, Reiji grimly admits that he had suspected as much. The man with glasses thinks it's remarkable that Lady Kokuryu was able to recognize Mireille in such a fragile state. The scene transitions as the two men walk down a long, quiet corridor. He finds Mireille inside, kneeling formally before a small table. A gentle moment passes, symbolized by an overlay of delicate white roses. Reiji gently lays the still unconscious Mireille down in a proper bed. He stands over her, his somber mood reflected by the cosmos flowers that bloom in his memory. As he prepares to leave, Reiji instructs the man with glasses to contact him if anything happens. He gives further detailed instructions, insisting that she get a proper meal and not overexert her fragile body. The man with glasses listens intently and agrees to the terms. Watching Mireille sleep, he's stunned that Reiji would go to his parents' home after 10 years just for her, realizing how deeply worried he is. The scene shifts to Reiji's high-rise office, where he stands alone looking out over the city at sunset. He slumps into his chair with an exhausted sigh, running a hand through his hair. He pulls out a small, worn photograph and gazes at it intently. A memory of someone offering him a cosmos flower surfaces with words of encouragement for the future. Lost in thought, he looks down at the photo with a sad, gentle expression. The cherished memento slips from his fingers, falling into the shadows below. As it falls, the photo is revealed to show two small children, with cosmos flowers and a butterfly framing the memory. The chapter ends with a butterfly fluttering over a close-up of Mireille's sad, sleeping face. Mireille finally awakens in the unfamiliar room, an IV still attached to her arm. As she sits up, she looks around and remembers that she fainted. She turns her gaze toward the closed door, as if expecting someone. The door creaks open as a single black dress shoe steps into the room. The scene transitions through an image of thorny green vines. Surrounded by blue roses, the man with glasses enters, coolly asking if she's finally awake. He bluntly informs her that Mr. Reiji will not be coming. Her hopeful expression immediately falls into one of disappointment. The man adds that Reiji is, of course, far too busy for such visits. He scolds her, stating that someone who fainted from hunger doesn't deserve Reiji's time, leaving her wondering how he knew her thoughts. Thwack. The realization hits her, and she cringes with embarrassment at having fainted from something so disgraceful as hunger. However, his tone changes as he unexpectedly compliments her, saying she was remarkable at the flower event. Mireille is completely stunned, wondering if the man she mentally dubbed the sadistic glasses demon, Onizuka, just paid her a compliment. Onizuka calmly rings a small bell. In response, a trio of butlers immediately wheels in serving carts. Mireille looks on in utter shock at the sudden arrival. A beautiful array of Japanese dishes is displayed, including unagi, sushi, and soba. Onizuka gestures toward a grand table laden with food and invites her to come. A tiny, chibi version of Mireille wonders if the cold Onizuka prepared all of this for her. Overwhelmed, she turns to him, stammering as she tries to find the words. He simply tells her to eat as much as she wants of whatever she desires. Humbled, she sits at the table, clasps her hands, and offers a heartfelt thanks for the food. She takes a bite of the omelet rice, blushing with simple, pure delight. Smiling warmly, she thanks him again and tells him he's actually a very kind person. Onizuka turns away abruptly, a glint in his glasses betraying his flustered reaction. With his arms crossed, he curtly denies her praise, stating it wasn't him. He reveals that it was Mr. Reiji who prepared everything for her. Mireille is left speechless, her eyes wide with shock at the revelation. A few days later, the scene shifts to Reiji's office building. Mireille arrives in the lobby, staring up in awe at the massive, glittering interior, thinking it's far too large. Lost in a long hallway, Mireille worries she can't find Mr. Kurotatsu's room among the many doors. She reaffirms her purpose with a determined expression, telling herself she only came to thank him for the meal. Walking onward, she reflects on how shocked she was by his unexpected kindness. She remembers how Mr. Kurotatsu carried her when she collapsed and had the lavish meal prepared for her. As she walks, memories of the man with dark hair fill her thoughts, his image appearing around her. Her search brings her to a stop before a pair of grand, ornate double doors. Believing she has found her destination, she concludes that this must be the CEO's office. Her resolve falters as she overhears a cold, chilling command from within. Enough. Startled, she peeks through a crack in the door, wondering if that was Mr. Kurotatsu's voice. Inside, the dark-haired man speaks on the phone, his golden eyes glowing with a menacing intensity. Horrified, Mirai overhears him repeat the order to kill him, her mind reeling from the brutal words. The chilling command echoes in her thoughts, making her question just who Mr. Kurotatsu truly is. Oh no! She pulls back from the door in a panic, realizing the gravity of what she's heard. Frozen in place, she stands before the CEO's office, the moment framed by ominous blue roses. The scene shifts to a sunny forest, where Ariel, holding a shovel, insists that she and her maid dig together to finish faster. With a determined look, Ariel declares that no one will interfere with their plan and begins to dig. Elsewhere, in a sunlit study, the man with white hair sits quietly, engrossed in a book. A maid named Nancy enters and addresses him as Your Grace, reporting that something strange has happened. She informs him that she saw Lady Ariel and her maid sneaking into the forest, checking if they were being watched. Nancy adds that both women were carrying large shovels, leaving the man with white hair to ponder their strange actions. The maid explains she didn't follow them for fear of being seen and decided to report to him first. When Nancy asks if she should follow them now, he calmly tells her that won't be necessary. He closes his book, his expression thoughtful, as he considers the curious situation. The scene returns to the forest at night, where a deep trench has been dug in the ground. Standing at the edge of the pit, Ariel and her maid celebrate their successful digging. Now, inside the trench, Ariel instructs her maid Laura to climb out first so she can pass up the shovels. Laura strains as she struggles to pull herself up and out of the deep hole. Having successfully climbed out, Laura turns and calls down to Ariel, ready to retrieve the shovels. Ariel passes the shovel up from the bottom of the trench, and Laura reaches down to grab it. After taking the shovel, Ariel asks from below if Laura is alright, and Laura reassures her she'll be up soon. Laura moves aside, urging her lady to be careful as she prepares to climb. Crack! The root Ariel was using as a handhold suddenly snaps, and she falls as Laura screams in terror. Ariel lands hard at the bottom of the trench, crying out as she laments her terrible luck. Panicked, Laura asks what she should do, but Ariel calmly tells her she is alright. To solve her predicament, Ariel asks Laura to find some sturdy vines they can use as a rope. Laura looks around the dark, moonlit forest but sees nothing that can help. Down in the hole, Ariel waits patiently for her maid to return with a solution. Promising to be right back, Laura sets off to find help, or a rope. As she runs frantically through the woods, Laura desperately calls out for someone to help. Ah! In her haste, she trips over a root and tumbles to the ground with a cry. The man with white hair arrives in the forest, noting that while it's the right place, he can't see anyone. Just as he wonders if Nancy was mistaken, he spots a shovel lying on the ground. Picking it up, he wonders if it belongs to Ariel, and calls out to see who's there. He realizes Nancy's information was correct, but is puzzled as to where Ariel and her maid have gone. Wah! Suddenly, the ground gives way beneath him, and he tumbles backward into the hidden trench. He lands with a jolt, looking around in surprise at his sudden predicament. His eyes widen as he turns and finds himself face to face with a stunned Ariel. Equally shocked, Ariel stares at the glowing blue gem in his hand and asks him what he's doing there. He sarcastically asks if she's playing hide and seek, but she cries out in pain, prompting him to ask what's wrong. She angrily complains that he fell on her leg, and the two stare at each other in a tense, silent standoff. The man with white hair holds Ariel's injured ankle, calmly informing her that it's dislocated. He tells her to hold a glowing orb and think happy thoughts, but she nervously asks if their situation sets a romantic mood. Snap! While she's distracted, he suddenly twists her ankle back into place, catching her by surprise. Kia! A piercing scream rips through the quiet of the dark forest. Now clinging to him on the ground, she demands to know what he was doing. He explains he just popped her dislocated ankle back into place, leaving her to complain that she thought he was trying to kill her. A quiet moment passes as they sit together at the bottom of the trench, recovering from the ordeal. Ariel glances over at the white-haired man, who seems to be resting with his eyes closed. As he stands, she nervously wonders who dug the hole, praying he never discovers it was her. He suggests they rest and wait for her maid to return, and she reluctantly agrees it's their only option. A somber mood sets in as the first drops of rain begin to fall into the pit. That night, the light sprinkle quickly escalates into a heavy, drenching downpour. Ariel shivers uncontrollably, wrapping her arms around herself for warmth against the soaking rain. The scene shifts to an office where Reiji stands before Mirai, coldly asking what she is doing there. Mirai flinches under his icy gaze, completely at a loss for what to say. He gestures her inside, stating they can talk in his office. Noting the rain, she looks at the still man beside her, anxiously wondering if he's fallen asleep or has a fever. "Your Grace," she cries, trying to shake him awake as the cold rain continues to fall on them. Panicking, she worries about her missing maid and fears the man might not survive in these conditions. Achoo! Her sneeze startles him awake, and he sharply demands to know who's there. As she enters, she's haunted by the memory of overhearing his chilling words. "Kill him." He settles behind his desk and, without looking up from his papers, curtly asks what she wants. She nervously thanks him for his help the other day, but he dismisses her gratitude as unimportant. Thump! His cold response stings, and she realizes he must be furious that she eavesdropped on his conversation. He points out the pouring rain, and she despairs, realizing her maid isn't coming back and no one will find them. The man with white hair gazes thoughtfully into the rain, contemplating their increasingly grim predicament. She confronts Duke Carcass about his presence in the forest, but he deflects, saying it was personal business before questioning her motives. Flustered by his question, she struggles to find an answer, still bewildered by his appearance. He looks up at her, his expression intense as he asks if she came all this way just for that. He states plainly that he only helped because her collapse interfered with their contract, reminding her he only cares about her role as his fake fiancé. The reddish brown-haired woman reflects with a grim expression, believing his concern for her was not genuine. The dark blue-haired man agrees to talk, stating that he also has something to tell her. In his office, he explains that an acquaintance wishes to send an engagement gift directly to her, not him. Watching him close his eyes again, a suspicion grows that he was faking sleep and may have followed her here. After she sneezes again, he questions if she's cold. Unconvinced by her stubborn denial, she trembles from the cold, silently wishing he understood that women feel the chill more keenly. He then firmly instructs her that she is required to attend the engagement celebration. She asks with noticeable apprehension what kind of person this acquaintance is. He reassures her that the man is just a wealthy magnate he has known for a long time and is not dangerous. He sternly warns her not to cause any trouble that might reveal their engagement is fake, and she quietly agrees. He pauses, looking at her with an unreadable expression as she shivers in the downpour. As he begins to remove his jacket, she looks up in surprise and asks what he is doing. He drapes his coat over her shoulders, telling her to wear it and insisting he's used to the cold. Blushing from the unexpected gesture, she thanks him, thinking he is a surprisingly kind person. He announces he's going to rest, turning away and leaving her wrapped in his coat, feeling flustered. She looks at him sitting beside her without his coat and realizes he's now the one enduring the freezing rain for her sake. As she leaves, he thinks to himself that it doesn't matter what the man is like, since he isn't Ryoko's real fiancé anyway. Ryoko reaffirms her resolve, reminding herself that she only needs to honor the contract. A few days later, the scene shifts to a beautiful, sunny coastal town for the celebration. The dark, blue-haired man and Ryoko arrive at the port, dressed as an elegant couple. They walk together along a stone path decorated with beautiful blue roses. Overwhelmed with guilt, she stands up, unable to accept his sacrifice. She drapes the large coat over both of them, suggesting they share it for warmth, but only if he promises to keep it a secret. He playfully asks what secret she means, and she retorts that it's a coat, not a blanket, and this is purely out of necessity. Surprised by his easy agreement, she's thrown off as they huddle closely together under the shared coat. Ryoko gazes out at the sea in surprise, admitting she didn't expect to travel so far. A massive, luxurious cruise ship suddenly looms before them, leaving her completely stunned. He calmly tells her it is time to go, but she is too shocked to respond immediately. As he walks ahead toward the ship, she wonders nervously where they are going. She looks up at the towering cruise ship, seeing the name Mirai written on its side. Their moment is interrupted as Laura appears at the edge of the pit, pointing down and shouting that she's found Lady Ariel. Laura frantically urges a rescue party forward, and they all peer down into the hole, calling out to their lady. In a moment of comical shock, she recognizes the name and exclaims, "Mirai!" She flashes back to his earlier explanation that the gift was meant specifically for her. As they head up the stairs, she begins to realize with growing dread what the gift is. Her face is filled with anxiety as the shocking truth begins to sink in. A handsome man with white hair and tan skin greets her warmly, calling her Mirai and asking if she likes her present. A man in the party recognizes Duke Carcass below holding a feverish Ariel and quickly orders a ladder to be lowered. The Duke lifts the weakened Ariel into his arms, telling her to hold on as he prepares to carry her up. With Ariel held securely, he he begins to climb the rope ladder, carrying them both toward safety. Once they're out of the hole, the rescuers rush to their side, expressing their relief and concern. Announcing that her fever is severe, Duke Carcass decides to carry her to the nearest clinic himself and orders the men to lead him. She stares at the enormous cruise ship, still unable to believe its luxurious scale. Her worried expression reveals the deep anxiety she feels about the situation. The charismatic, white-haired man formally introduces himself, asking Mireille again if she likes his extravagant gift. He then rushes past her to enthusiastically greet the dark blue-haired man, calling him Reiji. In a cute chibi scene, he clings to an annoyed Reiji while congratulating him on his engagement. A caption formally introduces the white-haired man as Iham Shamoon, the Great Tycoon. Reiji sighs with weary familiarity, remarking that his old friend Iham hasn't changed a bit. The two men stand together, their contrasting personalities on full display. Watching their reunion, the woman now known as Mireille looks on with an uneasy expression. Reiji internally recalls Aham's reputation as a billionaire oil tycoon and a famous playboy. He also remembers that Aham has 6 wives, and that he had warned Mireille to avoid causing a scandal. Aham suddenly turns and pulls a stunned Mireille into a close embrace. Completely caught off guard by his forwardness, she can only react in utter shock. The scene briefly pauses on a branch of green leaves, allowing the tense moment to linger. Aham holds Mireille gently, formally introducing himself and asking her opinion of his gift. Putting on a brave face, Mireille forces a smile and thanks him for the generous present. Pleased by her response, Aham gently lifts her gloved hand to his chin. Reiji immediately intervenes, pulling Mireille back to his side and away from Aham. Aham smirks at Reiji's possessiveness, casually dismissing his actions as a simple greeting. With a glare, Reiji coldly reminds Aham that his usual behavior is not acceptable in this country. Aham merely laughs, remarking to a flustered Mireille that she is clearly very loved. To diffuse the tension, Aham graciously offers to show them around his magnificent ship. The tour showcases the ship's incredible luxuries, including a grand hall, a pool, a greenhouse, and an aquarium. As they walk through a hallway, an overwhelmed Mireille looks weary, with Reiji following behind her. She is shocked to discover the next room is a private, fully stocked clothing boutique. Iham appears beside her and smoothly instructs her to change into a swimsuit. He gives her a charming wink, suggesting that a swimsuit is the only appropriate onboard attire. Mireille glances at Reiji, thinking that since Kukoryu isn't objecting, she must comply with the request. Aham decides they should leave, putting his arm around Reiji to guide him out of the boutique. As he leads Reiji away, Aham gives a knowing smile over his shoulder. Left alone in the spacious boutique, Mireille anxiously wonders what she should do. Her eyes land on a cute, pink plaid, 2-piece swimsuit hanging on display. Holding it up, she can't help but think the pink swimsuit is adorable. She looks at her reflection, seeing her old self in a tracksuit, and realizing she never thought she'd want to wear a swimsuit. A newfound determination fills her expression as she makes a decision. In a cute chibi sequence, she tries on sunglasses and sits down to contemplate her choices. She considers a modest black 1-piece swimsuit, thinking it's probably the safest option. She then looks at a frilly blue 2-piece, worrying it might be too flashy and revealing. Emerging from the dressing room, she's surprised to find Reiji waiting and tells him she didn't realize he was there. Reiji stands, with his arms crossed, as Mireille looks up at him. With a slight blush, he tells her not to keep him waiting too long, and she quickly agrees. With a firm grip, Mireille makes her final choice, selecting the blue swimsuit. Aham appears with a beaming, delighted expression, ready for the poolside fun. Mireille makes her entrance on the pool deck, and Aham immediately praises her, declaring she looks as stunning as a goddess. Seeking his friend's approval, Aham turns to Reiji and asks if he agrees. Feeling a bit self-conscious, Mireille quietly asks if she looks weird in the swimsuit. Reiji simply stares at her with a serious, unreadable expression. With a flick, a black ribbon is suddenly tied in Mireille's hair, surprising her. Reiji watches Iham walk off with another woman, then turns to Iham and asks what they should do now. Iham points out something bright red to Mireille, who looks confused, wondering what he's referring to. Looking down with a blush, a flustered Mireille seems to understand what he meant. A bright blue sky appears with the enthusiastic declaration, "Let's have some fun." Iham cheerfully pulls both Mireille and Reiji along the sunny deck to enjoy the day. The scene shifts as Duke Carcass thinks to himself that he'll question Ariel once she regains consciousness. Holding the unconscious Ariel, he asks how long it will take for her to wake and is told it will be soon. Ariel's father thanks Duke Carcass, who apologizes for the trouble, and assures him they will take Ariel home to recover. Ariel rests peacefully in an ornate, golden bed. Her eyes suddenly flutter open as she wakes from her slumber. Seeing her father, she sits up in confusion, asking where she is and how she got home. Her father explains he found her and the Duke in a pit, then pointedly asks when they became so close. Ariel stammers nervously, trying to assure her father that the situation isn't what he's thinking. Frantically, she clarifies that her father seeing her embrace Duke Carcass was a complete accident that happened after they both fell into a hole. Changing the subject, Ariel asks for her maid, Laura, and calls her into the room. Laura enters, expressing her relief and happiness that Ariel has finally woken up. Ariel asks why Laura never returned with help, and the maid apologizes, explaining she fell and was knocked unconscious. Shocked by the news, Ariel worriedly asks if Laura was injured. Laura reassures her she's fine, and then asks Ariel to clear up her father's misunderstanding about her and the Duke. Her father misinterprets Laura's words, protectively demanding to know if Duke Carcass has been bothering her. Ariel quickly waves her hands, laughing nervously, as she reassures her overprotective father that the Duke has done nothing wrong. Recalling how the Duke cared for her, she confidently tells her father not to worry. She concludes that, after observing him, she realizes he's not as bad as she initially thought. Ariel confidently tells her father she understands his concerns for their family's future and will keep everything in mind. In his study, Duke Carcass is presented with the guest list for the late Duke's memorial party. Lost in thought, the Duke doesn't respond, prompting the maid to try and get his attention. The maid hands him the documents for the memorial party for the late Duke Elroy, gently asking if he is all right. Taking the guest list, he dismisses her concern, stating that he is fine. After reviewing the list, he gives a firm order. Marquis Port and his entire family must attend. The maid expresses her confusion, pointing out the Port family's long-standing hostility, but the Duke curtly replies that he has his reasons. The man with white hair calmly asks the maid if she intends to argue with him, and she quickly assures him she won't. In another grand room, a man nervously paces, wondering why the Duke has ordered the entire family to attend an event. A blonde woman worries about the Duke's hidden motives, certain that everyone blames her for the late Duke's death. Her father holds an invitation, confirming her suspicion that the late Duke's memorial is just a pretext to summon them. She stares at the invitation, questioning Duke Carcass's true intentions and wondering if she should investigate. Her father dismisses her concerns, insisting they will attend together and assuring her the Duke won't act rashly in public. After her father leaves, she gets a bad feeling that Duke Carcass is scheming, just as a maid arrives with her medicine. She instructs her maid to cover for her while she sneaks out to meet someone, but the maid asks who she's meeting, as a man's voice calls her Lottie. The maid offers to go in her place, concerned about her lady's plan. Lottie insists on going herself, telling her maid to keep watch and to lie to her father that she fell asleep if he asks.